Okay, so I wanted to share how I found the law of attraction and a bit of a a super serendipitous event that when these kind of events happen, you can't help but to notice them and kind of wake up. And when they happen in my life, I tend to think it's the universe speaking, that there's some kind of resonance going on with all these crazy kind of synchronous events that makes me kind of pay attention. And so I'll share my story and what eventually led to my I wake up every day, and I almost every day spend 15 minutes or so relearning the law of attraction, recalibrating myself to this universal law, right? And so I wanted to share kind of how I got into it, and then obviously I'll share more about kind of my inspirations and kind of what I get when I get it, and what it means to me, that hopefully that'll help you. So I am super into Napoleon Hill, and for those who don't know Napoleon Hill, it's definitely worth looking into. His famous book is Think and Grow Rich, but he also wrote a book called Outwitting the Devil. And Outwitting the Devil was about his process writing Think and Grow Rich. And that was, one of the best-selling books of all time, right? So he talks about his process and his challenges through his process, and ultimately a deep spiritual awakening that he had. And while I was listening to this book, I tend to listen to books on audio. It's just my preference. And I was on my way somewhere, and I called an Uber. And so I stopped listening to it. I went out and I jumped in this Uber, and this super cool hipster girl was driving the Uber, and I got in and I said hello to her, whatever. And then as we got going, I said to her, do you mind if I plug in or somehow connect my phone and my audiobook so we can both listen to it? Because I figured she'd get something from it, because it was super interesting what I was listening to. And she said, well, what are you listening to? And I said, I'm listening to Napoleon Hill, Outwitting the Devil. And she's like, that's what I'm listening to. I was like, what? So what are the chances that, you meet someone in an Uber that is listening to one of the billion different books that exist at that time? If you do the math, it's not normal. It's super we were on the same wavelength, and somehow the universe brought us together. And we were also on the same wavelength. We were really vibing on our conversation. And so when that happened, we went deep, and we're like, oh, what did you get out of it? And we started sharing our inspiration about the book. And then at one point she references, Abraham Hicks, as if I would know kind of who they are. And I'm like, well, who's that? And she said, you don't know Abraham Hicks? And I'm like, no, tell me. And she's like, it's the law of attraction. I said, I know law of attraction. I've heard of it before, but I've never really studied it. I'm into Napoleon Hill, but this is new to me, right? So she went on to tell me, she's like, look, this woman, Esther Hicks, basically channels these souls, and they give her information, and she basically receives that information and interprets it and speaks. And the law of attraction was born through this woman, Esther Hicks, learning how to channel this information through this group of souls that they call Abraham. And I said, what? I said, that is so interesting. What is the story about that? Because obviously law of attraction has a lot of gravity. It's a big deal. A lot of people talk about it. There was a famous movie about it, but law of attraction is a term that everyone's heard of. I don't know how many people actually know what the teaching is, but I think that, when people connect to the teaching, they, it's super resonant. It's super, special, because it's this knowledge that this woman, Esther Hicks, she basically gets out of the way, and this wisdom flows through her. And I find it really special, because it resonates on a deep level. It's not this humans or this limited brain is getting in the way and like, causing kind of process or putting their own spin on something. This woman instead gets into a meditative state, and this wisdom comes through her in a very seamless way. So she starts telling me about it, right? And I'm like, okay, that's really interesting. I said, where should I start? I want to learn about this. She's like, well, if I were you, I would read Ask and It Is Given. I said, okay. And she's like, because that's like the main book, right? The Law of Attraction is one book. Ask and It Is Given is one. There's a few books, but Ask and It Is Given is definitely the place to start. I said, okay. And she said, but, I said, but before I go reading like this long book, right? How can I get my feet wet? Because I wanted to get a sense if this is actually that interesting to me, because I hadn't been exposed to it. So she said, well, look, Oprah Winfrey did an interview where she brought Esther Hicks onto the stage, and then she actually asked Esther to go into her meditative state and to start channeling Abraham, and then she wanted to interview Abraham, right? I'm like, what? That's so interesting, because Oprah is on a world stage, right? She doesn't do things that are like airy-fairy, because that's not going to connect to the masses, right? That's not going to be good for her audience, and it wouldn't be good for her brand. So I was thinking, well, if she's doing that, I mean, that's super interesting. So anyway, I went on YouTube and I found the Oprah interview, and I'll put the link below. And I'll also put, if there's a link, if I can find a link to like Ask and It Is Given, I'll put that below too. I know that it's on Audible, and I know that it's on, obviously Amazon. Actually, they're both Amazon, but whatever. So look, that's what I wanted to share. What you'll see is you'll see more videos from me, like this next video you can click in the end slate, about kind of me explaining different aspects of the Law of Attraction, how I interpret them. I'll give, kind of more concise explanations of the Law of Attraction. So, hopefully you don't have to cover as much ground as I have, because I've studied Law of Attraction for, it's got to be over hundreds of hours, because I just, it really resonates with me, so I can take in a lot of it. And in fact, I'm rereading the book now. I don't know how many times I've read it, but there's a lot of YouTube videos as well. So you can also search YouTube for Abraham Hicks Law of Attraction. And look, I hope it helps you. And ultimately, it's a super powerful, super special wisdom. You can learn more, click the video in the end slate, and I will go into what the Law of Attraction is practically. Or you can click the link in the video below and see Oprah Winfrey interviewing Abraham Hicks, and then you'll get it right from the source. It's a better way to do it, frankly, if you have the time and you have the patience. If not, click my video in the end slate. Okay, well, I hope it helps you, and have a great evening. Sending all my love.